and gentlemen, the 3 knockdown rule is in effect. Welcome to the show on Triller. I'm Steve Kim, joined by Mars Bar, Mario Lopez.
Wait a
Saw
minute.
you trick-or-treating yesterday last night.
I was wondering where the Mars bar was going. You know what? Do they still make Mars bars?
I haven't had one in years.
Those are good.
Very solid.
Nice callback with the old school candy bar right there. And quick shout out to Justin Buffalo Knuckles and Smoking Tim Frazier and Little Giant.
Yo. Tino doing the edits.
That's
All right,
right.
we've got so much to talk about. Let's get into it. A busy boxing schedule this
Yes.
past weekend. We'll start off from the Hulu Theater Saturday night in New York on ESPN Plus. Junior welterweights in action. Jose Zepeda zaps Josue Vargas in one, and in a bantamweight battle, Jonas, the Sultan of SWAT, with a 10-round decision over the talented Puerto Rican Carlos Caraballo. All 3 scorecards had a 94-93 across the board. But Mario, going to the main event, Jose Zepeda speaks softly, but he carries a big stick.
Good fights this weekend. I was fired up by all the fights because I love it when I'm looking forward to something and they deliver. And that's exactly what happened. Well, okay. Cepeda, who I've always liked, both as a fighter and as a person, I think he's highly skilled, a really good counterpuncher with power. You see counterpunchers that are sharp and precise. You don't really see him that heavy-handed. He's a counterpuncher with power, and the only thing that, if we're being a little meticulous, he seems to sometimes fight to the level of his opposition, or he needs to get motivated for the fights, right? Now, he fought this kid, this brash young kid, who's a highly touted prospect, a talented guy, could fight himself, this Josue Vargas. But I don't know, maybe I'm just a West Coast LA guy, but it bugs the crap out of me whenever I hear, I'm from New York, son.
What's that
I'm
mean?
from New York. Exactly. And
what is this?
I'm from New York, and you don't know, we don't be in the Puerto Rican, this and that. And then you got this quiet little Mexican kid that's just kind of like, okay, you know, he's gonna let his talking do his talking in the ring. My guy went in there, and it was like a beautiful script. In the first round, boom, just rocked his ass, never recovered, jumped right on him, got him out of there. It was a demoralizing, humiliating victory or defeat, I should say, for Vargas because of all the crap he talked. You know, I don't know why all these young guys, they want to take a page out of that McGregor sort of Mayweather book, but both of those guys, McGregor and Mayweather, I think they're kind of almost doing it with a wink and like a smile and kind of slipping into characters because you talk to them afterwards and you know, they seem to be regular guys. But these young guys try to be about that life, and I'm from New York, and he got caught up quick. It was such sweet justice. And like Cepeda said, there is levels to this. I think Vargas went in there, was a little over his head. It was an energetic crowd, Madison Square Garden. You can see he was a little tense. He was going for all the little feints. Stepped in with that long, lean jab, followed up with that right hand, ducked the follow-up left or the counter left hook, and that was all she wrote. He went out there and closed that out. It was beautiful. It was entertaining. It was a statement win. And something about Cepeda, look, my guy, I thought, did enough to, and it was a very, very close fight. And I think a lot of people did, and I think Tim Bradley agrees with me, that you could have given him the nod against Jose Ramirez, who I really like as well, in his hometown of Fresno, okay? And then he had the hell of a fight with Baranchik.
Fight of the year, 2020.
Fight of the year, knockout of the year, I would say, too. And then he just fought this hot prospect in his hometown again with an emphatic victory. You can't tell me guys in junior lightweight who had a nice little run like that. My guy deserves his next shot at the title. I know they're talking about Josh Taylor, but Josh Taylor, I'm hearing, is going to move up after this next weight class because he's bursting at the seams of 147, which would mean, and I was just speaking with Julian Chua right before we left, he was hearing the same thing. His trainer, by the way, more on him later, that he would fight the winner of Ramirez
Pedraza.
which is a good fight. Now, Chon Cepeda already beat Pedraza. He had a very close fight, as we just discussed. A lot of people thought he would against Ramirez. So I think he's right where he needs to be. And the new partnership with Chua, I think is very exciting. And I want to talk about Chua a little bit more later. But what a fight from Cepeda, and considering all the antics in talking before, it just made it that much better. They were killing the poor kid on social media. Look, it was nice that him and his father ended up speaking afterwards to Mark Kriegel. But I don't know, Kim, if psychologically, mentally, he's going to be able to come back. We're going to see what he's really made of now. But it wasn't like he got battered and beaten to a pulp. But sometimes this can do just as much damage.
Jose Vargas won the press conference. He won the weigh-in. Didn't win the fight. And, you know, Jose Zepeda's like a guy that, I know every school has a guy like this. They don't say much. They never look in the eye. They're afraid to speak up in class. They look kind of meek. People think they could pick on him. One day the school bully thinks he's going to be the tough guy and make a show of it, and he gets wrecked, and everyone's like, oh my God, geez, don't mess with that guy.
Watch the quiet ones, bro.
And you talk about Zepeda. His new nickname is Dow Jones Zepeda because he's up and down, and the worst mistake Vargas made was to motivate him. Look at the last 4 bouts of Zepeda leading into this. He beat Jose Pedraza. Great performance on the Tyson Fury Otto Wallin undercard.
Great fight.
Then he fought in the bubble against Kendo Castaneda. Quite frankly, he put me to sleep. Then he had the World War III against Ivan Baranchik. Then against Hank Lundy, we were both out there and we're like, wake up.
Yeah.
Wake up. There's never been a fighter who I've seen that directly mirrors his preparation and his motivation. And for this fight, I said to Vargas, I would have said to Josue, let sleeping dogs lie.
Right. Listen, it made, for us, it was a blessing because it made it that much more entertaining, and it got those who maybe weren't interested intrigued because of all the antics before. But you're right. He is the type of individual that you got to watch the quiet ones, all the dogs that bark loud, however that expression goes, and I think he actually used that expression. Cepeda, Chon, is one of those guys, man. You got to watch what you wish for right there, and that's exactly what Vargas wished for.
And for Vargas, doesn't matter where you're from or where you're at. This ain't Bad Boy against Death Row Records. Maybe in that world it matters if you're on the wrong side of the country.
A lot of New York guys do that.
Well, it's an East Coast thing.
Yeah, but what does that mean? You don't hear guys from LA.
Right. I don't.
It's just the ridiculous. I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, because what if you're a fighter from the East Coast that then trains in Las Vegas? Then who are you representing? Are you East Coast, West Side, whatever? Anyway,
weird.
The co-feature was an interesting battle. Jonas Sultan. I thought he may have lost more rounds than he won, but in a 10-rounder, if you score 4 knockdowns, you're going to win the fight.
You know, that wasn't a fun fight. We were texting each other back and forth. He looks like a little Filipino bull.
Oh.
And I give credit to his opponent.
Caraballo.
Wepa. He was getting up after every knockdown and was being effective too. And at some point I said, oh my God, he's mounting a comeback. He was showing some heart. Making adjustments until the bull decided to go to the China shop again and let his hands go. And man, catching him with those big rights, looping overhand rights. That was a fun fight. I think Caraballo is a talented kid, but I'm questioning his punch resistance.
Checks every single box except chin.
Yeah.
And maybe ring rust had a lot to do with it, because to his credit, he kept getting up and fighting well.
He did.
But with that being said, psychologically now, you're wondering, does he want to go back into the fire? As for Sultan, look, he was big, he was strong, he was effective. And again, in a 10-round fight, look at the scorecards. It was a 1-point fight, so I'm literally thinking every round he didn't score a knockdown. You're telling me he lost? I thought the cards, it looked like there was going to be some Puerto Rican home cooking there at the Hulu Theater.
The right man won, but it was still disturbing to see that discrepancy in the scorecards.
Because think about it. Let's say the 4th knockdown doesn't happen. You're telling me a guy that scores 3 knockdowns in a 10-round fight still may not get the decision?
No,
ooh,
that would have been
not good.
Not good for the sport at all.
Also, Saturday night from the Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas, it was showtime. And in the main event, WBA welterweight title was won by Radzat Butayev, who bludgeons Jamal James in 9. And then welterweight sensation Jaron Boots Ennis stops Thomas Delorme in one in the opening bout. Lightweight Mikel Rivera, 10-round decision over Jose Matias Rivera. Mario, let's get to the main event. Radzab Butayev spoke to Joel Diaz, and he said, Steve, that was Mexican style with a touch of Diaz. That was a Julio Cesar Chavez-like bludgeoning of working over the body to a taller, angular opponent. That was great to see.
It was. You know I love that style of fighting. Yeah. So whenever I see it still imposed on someone and being effective, makes me smile.
I really look at Jamal James, and even though he won some early rounds, the tempo.
Right.
And then once Butayev, who's like this strong, rugged guy, was getting inside, he made a key adjustment. So on the inside, around the fourth round, started going southpaw. So then the right hook started coming on the other side. And Jamal James had this look. And a lot of people are questioning the stoppage. Do I think it was 15 to 20 seconds early? I do.
But I'd rather 15, 20 seconds early than 15, 20 seconds late.
Two rounds too late. You know those used car dealerships that have those blow-up things that, like, waver?
Yeah.
Those blow-up things?
He was starting to look like that.
He looked like that. His body language changed. In the first half of round 9, it looked like he caught his second win. And even Abner Morris said, look, he looked better.
Yeah.
The last minute, it looked like nothing was left. It's like when your cell phone goes to 0 and it just kind of just dies off. That's what it looked like.
I had no problem with that stoppage. I thought the whole night I was going back and forth, and you were watching the Showtime card, and I was watching the ESPN card. I thought there was really solid fights, very entertaining. DVR was working overtime.
Yeah, and I want to thank Boots Ennis because he saved the conflict because that was my main event. I'm going to say it again. Boots Ennis is Bitcoin. I mean, he's special.
Okay, look. I like Boots Ennis. I really do.
Oh, here comes the butt.
No. I'm gonna put on a promoter hat for a second. Really like Boots Ennis. The kid is talented, sound, fundamentally, can crack, tough, from Philly, the whole thing. Now, if we're getting meticulous, because we've been already talking about the what I hope is the inevitable showdown with Virgil Ortiz. First, let me talk about the fight itself, and then we'll get into Virgil Ortiz, right? In the fight, obviously, he blasted him out in the first round. When he had him hurt, his opponent was able still to catch him with 2 overhand rights. Pretty clean. He's so offensive-minded and confident in his power. He leaves that chin up a little bit. Again, I'm being meticulous. When you crack like that, I guess you can. But he got caught. He got caught pretty clean with the second one. And I'm thinking, if that's a Virgil Ortiz...
You never know.
You never know. I got to tell you, if those two were to face right now, I would favor Virgil early in the first few rounds. But as it goes... as the rounds continue, I may lean towards Boots. But after that, I just think that Boots, and again, I love both of them, and I hope they fight for a title later on. Again, being super picky here, I just think he leaves himself a little exposed, gets a little touched. Has the potential to get a little touched, and with a guy with heavy hands like Virgil, that could come back to kind of haunt him. Do you think Virgil Ortiz has faced tougher opposition?
Yes.
I think so too.
Yes.
So I'm almost and then Boots has been able to get touched a little bit. So I'm thinking if those two were to meet next year, I still slightly favor we're talking like a 51-49 with Virgil right there, only because of that. Because I think Virgil keeps his hands up a little tighter, he's a little more defensive minded, and he shoots those 1-2s quick. And if he's able to catch them, I think he might. Because I still haven't seen Boots. Maybe you have, but I haven't seen him really take one on the whiskers from a heavy-handed guy.
Look, he ran into the same problem with Lipinets, and I've talked to Stephen Breadman Edwards, who says, Steve, I think the kid's almost flawless, except he has a lot of guts, maybe too much for his own good.
That's exactly
Sometimes discretion is the better part of valor, but I want to make a bold statement here. I think Boots already, I'm not so sure I would favor anyone outside of Terrence Crawford at 147 over him. Again, I'm projecting a little bit. It is the eye test. But when a guy like Rudy Hernandez, who passes out compliments like manhole covers, as they say, he says, Steve, that's a bad...
Oh, no, he is a bad... I have no problem. I think Boots and Virgil both can step in right now with Spence, Crawford, and Porter, which, by the way, Porter's been looking really good. It's not such a gimme fight. I think it's a real fight for Crawford and Porter. Ideally, I would love those guys. Let me ask you a question. Would you prefer, if you had your druthers here, would you prefer Boots and Virgil to fight each other next year, or maybe fight the champions like take on a Terrence and take on a Spence and then fight? What would you do if you could?
I like the latter scenario. Let's see if they can win a belt. And I'd like to make it like Leonard Hearns, make it a unification.
Yeah.
And look,
they could win.
looking at the ratings, remember, Virgil Ortiz is number 1 in 2 sanctioning bodies. Boots Ennis, this is the problem. He's top 5 or 6 in every single one. But you know it, and I know it. He has to be a mandatory for any of these guys to raise their hand.
Of course.
And that's why, at times, you do need sanctioning bodies, but a spectacular outing once again from Philly's finest.
Yes.
Moving on with the 3 knockdown rule on Triller this Saturday night from the MGM Grand in Las Vegas Showtime pay-per-view. For all the marbles, all the belts are on the line at 168. The game superstar Canelo Alvarez takes on Caleb Plant. Mario, my view is very simple. Alvarez is the best fighter in the game. He's on top of his game. There's no ring rust. I think that's a big factor. Caleb Plant is going from double-A pitching to prime Clayton Kershaw or Sandy Koufax. Look, I think he'll have his moments. I like Alvarez. I think he even stops him late.
I like the Dodgers reference there. Thank you for that. You know I love me some Canelo. And forget the whole Mexican thing. I think he's a champion's champion. Continues to work hard no matter how much money he's got, and he's always in the game. You never see him between fights out of shape. As a matter of fact, you constantly see him in the gym, always improving his craft. He wants to be great. He's on the precipice of making history right now. Not that it's a knock, but I'm just saying he's still a small guy for that weight class, theoretically speaking.
Is he small or just short?
Well,
there's a difference.
He's compact, not small.
Yeah, like a tank.
Yeah, like a tank. No, like a tank, but at the same time, like, dude, Plant looked a lot bigger than him. Tim. I'm not saying that is going to be a deciding factor. I'm just saying, look, as he goes up, right, and I know he's had a couple fights here already, Plant has to use another pitching reference, pitch a shutout to have a shot here. Because I don't think he has the pop to hurt him. I don't think he is going to want to be in the trenches and go toe-to-toe. So he literally has to box a masterpiece, which I don't think he will do. I think Canelo's highly motivated. And I too think if they allow him to fight inside, he stops him around the 9th.
If you look at Canelo, the greatest improvement he's made is really his upper body movement. And it's interesting.
His defense is so pretty.
People always talk about head movement. Chris Bird taught me this one time. He was at the Wild Card about 7-8 years ago, and he's training a fighter. And I asked him one time, Chris, is head movement learned, or is it something natural that came to you? He said, Steve, people always talk about head movement. Steve, it's upper body movement.
It's upper body.
And he actually taught me, and he's actually moving my body. He goes, Steve, you have to move your head starting from your torso and your hip.
Right.
And if you actually look at the way Canelo bends and slips, look.
And those thick legs of him.
Yeah.
Look, it's much like a James Toney. James Toney, too.
Right.
Bobbed and weaved and swerved and dipped. It's so pretty to look at. Whereas opposed to like a Mayweather who's just kind of catching and parrying your punches here. Canelo really with the whole.
He sways.
His core, his swords, yes.
And so that's the difference. Caleb Plant, I know, is going to try to establish that long jab. But unless you actually touch him the way Golovkin was with his educated left. Look, do I see Plant boxing well in stages? Yes, but that whole time, it's like Jaws. Dun-dun, dun-dun.
Oh, yeah, that pressure.
He's going to come slowly, and he's going to start to close the ring off.
Come.
Right. And look, take a look at what Canelo has faced from the time he became a champion. This is his road to Canelo. He won the title against Jose Uzcategui. I was there January of 2019 at LA Live. But then he fought Mr. Subway, Mike Lee, Blue Mountain 3. Vincent Feigen Boots, hometown fight, stopped him in 10. Then he beat Caleb Truax, 12-round decision. And also, this is another factor. That fight was January 30th, 2021. Two things. Ring rust, Canelo never has that issue. Many fighters today, I spoke to Buddy McGirt about this. When you take this much time off, it's only natural for fighters to take about, not a feel-out round, a feel-out 3-4 rounds.
Of course.
Canelo's right ready to dive into that action.
Absolutely.
The other thing is, and we've spoken about this, I actually believe it happened to Golovkin the first time he fought Canelo. Even though he may have won that fight, first 2-3 rounds, I think he looked around saying, wow, this is kind of big.
Yeah, the moment.
Yes.
Exactly.
It's big. It matters.
And absolutely. We'll ask Vargas when he fought Zabella this weekend.
Yes. And so I wonder how he's going to deal with the fact that, look, he's been on Fox. He's fought in front of big crowds. But when you fight Canelo in an international event, it's different.
Absolutely.
Moving on to news and notes, just announced by ESPN, December 11th for their Heisman Trophy fight card that they do annually from the Madison Square Garden. Vasily Lomachenko will take on Richard Commey. And Mario, that same day on Showtime, Nonito Donaire look like he's going to headline against Raymart Gaballo. Big night of boxing there.
Donaire still in the mix. Love to hear.
Still
about
elite.
It. Yeah, still elite.
And as it relates to Lomachenko, I like this fight because Commey's strong, rugged, physical. And look, do I think Commey's kind of built for Loma in a sense that he's a big, strong guy, methodical, is going to keep coming, and he has a chance to make Loma look great? He does. But Commey still has heavy hands.
Regardless of what happens in that fight, it's going to make Teofimo Lopez look good, being that he had his way with both of them.
Yes. Mario, speaking of Canelo, I find it interesting that last week, Saul Alvarez went on the record and said about his gym mate, Ryan Garcia, not going verbatim, but he said, yeah, I mean, the kid has talent, but doesn't always seem to work hard. He's kind of wasting time. Huh.
He said he's wasting his talent and his time. Is that tough love? Is that just frustration? Look, is that camp? What I love about Canelo is he permeates confidence and hard work. He sets the tone. He sets the tone as you should. He's the Tom Brady there, which is great. He's a winner, and everyone has benefited. So I don't think he wants anyone in that stable that's not going to put in the work like he does. It's the first time he's been vocal about it. Some people are like, oh man, if they're brothers, the way they claim, he should have told him on the side, hey, look, he was asked a question. He answered honestly. I don't think he was disrespectful. I think he stated the obvious. And I found it interesting that Ryan Garcia was tweeting responses from other people that were sort of having his back. Or how did you read into that?
Tough love is honesty, and honesty is tough love. And I know people that have been in there that Eddie Reynoso is the general. Canelo is the lieutenant. That he really is more than just a fighter. I've heard he goes out of his way to help fighters. Like if he sees a fighter not doing a drill correctly, he'll actually come over and say, no, do it like this.
Right.
Like he'll really get involved.
Yeah, I love that.
So if Eddie Reynoso is Bill Belichick, he's Josh McDaniels. He's the coordinator. He's going to set the tone. My view is this. I think too many people have not told Ryan the truth. Maybe he needs to be hearing this publicly.
Who will it resonate
with
him for than
It's
than
not
more than
just
him?
a couple of yahoos on a podcast who are quote-unquote haters saying it. How can he respond to this?
Look, Canelo has an old-school throwback mentality because when he was at his age, he said he fought 5 times a year just to get the experience and to build, not just his resume, but his skills. Same thing with De La Hoya. Those are throwback old-school guys. Ryan represents nothing but the new school in this whole social media and falling in love with the celebrity of it as opposed to loves the idea of being a fighter except for the fighting itself.
I respect Canelo. He was asked a question. He answered honestly. If he would have rationalized this stuff going on, I would have lost respect for him.
No,
Tip of the sombrero to Alvarez. Mario, you know me. I'm pretty much a cynic. You know me.
No.
Yeah. No. Man. I've lost all hope in humanity. Last week, I am on Instagram looking at my accounts.
You're on Instagram? Shocker.
Yeah. And Jimmy's Corner, one of our favorite spots in New York.
My guy.
Wrote a post.
I got a picture up there.
Right. I love Jimmy. Glenn, God rest his soul.
Rest in peace.
And they had a little ceremonial spot for him. And me and Jimmy used to talk all the time about business. His old days at the Garden.
Best juice box in the city.
Dealing with Teddy Brenner. And so they left one of his old hats and canes as a remembrance. This post basically said, someone stole this.
Man.
I can't believe the gall of people. My God.
There's ugly individuals out there. They're going to get home. God don't like ugly, though. So they're going to get theirs. Don't worry.
I mean, they still serve you.
Those drinks are still cheap, by the way.
$2 beers, and you got to take a hat and a cane.
And this is in New York City.
Oh,
right in the heart of Times Square.
I mean, that was heartbreaking.
I don't worry about those kind of things because they're going to come up. They'll get their own.
I mean, look, I want to tell those thieves, look, no questions asked. We will forgive and forget. Next time you're there, just put it back. Just put it back.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, anyway, we come back. The 3 Knockdown rule on Triller. We go to Ask Mario and Final Flurries. And we're back on the 3 Knockdown rule on Triller. Steve Kim, Mario Lopez, talking all things boxing. Here's one from Epeto. He says, ask Mario if he has ever eaten a pib, a Yucatan tamale, a seasonal food. Greetings to all of you guys. Now, not to be confused with Mr. Pibb.
Yeah, no, right. No, I have, and they're really tasty. You know, those tamales, the Mexican tamales are in a corn husk. Those tamales, I believe, are like kind of banana leaf or some sort of leaf. They're like a little softer and mushier, but they're tasty. I don't discriminate with the tamales. They're
Yeah,
really
as it relates to Mr. Pibb, by the way, I didn't realize this, but Coca-Cola was sued by Dr. Pepper because they originally called that knockoff of Dr. Pepper Peppo. And a judge said, "Hey, McDowell's,
Yeah.
lay
That
back
sounds
with
a
your
little too
arcs."
close to Pepto-Bismol.
It really does. And by the way, Mr. Pibb is actually discontinued.
Yeah, it's
That's
good.
a sad
I didn't
dick.
like.
You didn't like?
You were a Dr. Pepper guy?
I love Doc. I'm a pepper.
Really?
You're not a pepper?
I'm not a
Don't you
pepper.
want to be a pepper too?
No, I don't actually.
By the way, in Waco, Texas, where it began, you know there's a Dr. Pepper museum?
Is it really?
Yeah,
That's
I
a
might
fun
have to
fact.
drop by. Might have to drop by
Okay.
there. See David Koresh's house and everything like that. Here's one from Djokovic, one of our longtime fans. Rolly Romero. This is a serious issue. The double standard from the media / cancel culture crowd. The allegations are disturbing. But if he was a bigger name, would he get his due diligence?
Who is this?
Djokovic.
Jovovich. Very, very good point. Look, I'm not one to condemn someone before there's proof and we hear all the evidence.
Due
and all
process
sides.
is his
Due
right.
process is a thing. It seems like it's no longer a top priority here in this country, unfortunately, because people start to try people in the court of public opinion on social media. Look, ironically, his opponent, Tank, is on camera manhandling some girl at a Celtics game.
No. It was Super Bowl weekend at the University of Miami basketball gym.
At the basketball game there. But he's manhandling a girl at a basketball game.
It's all public.
Exactly. And then he had a hit and run for a DUI.
Still outstanding charges.
With some people got hurt.
4 of them.
4 people got hurt.
What's the difference?
But we're going to try to cancel Raleigh. And when,
Right.
I mean, this guy we know did this. Now we're just going on. I'm not saying he didn't do
Right.
it, but I'm just saying that's exactly my point.
What's the difference? Right.
There's a huge difference.
Right.
One, we see physical proof
Right.
that it occurred. In 2 instances, this one we're going on hearsay. I think he's getting a bad deal. Now, look.
Well,
Hold on a second. I'm sorry. I think in comparison, because to his opponent, it seems like his
double
point,
standard.
a double
It
standard.
is
That's
a
my
double
point.
standard.
It seems. I'm not saying he didn't do it. I'm not
Right.
saying that at all. But I'm saying it does seem like a total double standard. Am I crazy in thinking
No,
that?
you're not. But here's what I have to be fair about this as someone who does not like cancel culture.
I'm not, and I'm not.
Yeah.
I should have prefaced it by saying I don't know all the particulars of the situation.
The sheer volume of allegations and the fact that the original female who started this firestorm, for lack of a better word, is actually pressed charges, and now there's a criminal investigation.
Sure.
Now I'm like, okay, young lady, you are now putting your words to the legal system. I respect that, by the way.
I agree with you. But would you have a problem letting that work out? Play itself out, I should say, and he still goes about his business until it happens.
Boy,
because then why are you letting
Right.
Tank go
No,
by then?
because
That's also what I'm saying. I
agree.
guess I'm just bringing up the double standard.
Right, and that and double standards and all this stuff, it becomes so uncomfortable.
He hasn't officially been canceled off the card, correct?
I believe it's trending that way.
No, I know it's trending, but it hasn't been official, correct?
Not officially announced by Showtime, but I trust Mike Coppinger and Chris
Sure.
Mannix. Look,
Sure.
they're probably told, like, "Psst, we're getting, and I've heard Isaac Cruz, a strong Mexican, might actually be an upgraded opponent. Look, he
Yeah, but that's
deserve-
not the point. As
That's
far-
not the
the
point.
exactly.
Right, and we'll let this play out. We'll talk
Sure,
about it
sure,
more.
of
Here's one
course.
from Clay Stevenson. Hey, Mario, I'm very intrigued by trainer Julian Chua. He is definitely a rising star among current boxing coaches. How do you see Zurdo doing against Bivol now with Chua in his corner?
I really like Julian. He's a young, smart guy.
Put his time in, by the
Knew
way.
him from Wild Card. Mark Kriegel was giving him a lot of love, deservedly so, on ESPN. He's just, you know what I like about him? He's just a smart individual. Outside of boxing,
Yeah.
he's just a smart guy. And I've actually trained with him, and we've sparred, and I've gotten some lessons.
Yeah, I'm
from
sure it
him.
was light.
He was. It started getting heated. But he loves that. But he explains things so well, and he has such a good sense of the game and how to impose your style. He doesn't try to conform everyone to his style. He takes your style, tries to refine it, and explains it to you how it can be effective and where there's detriments. I really like that, and I like the drills. I really like him as a trainer. I think he's in the next big thing.
He's going to get some work.
He's young. He's smart. Look, he's looked really good with Zurdo as of late, okay? Really good with Cepeda, a guy who we know has gone up and down. He had a really emphatic performance. That was on the heels of Marvin Vittori
Yeah.
who gave away like 20 some odd pounds, and his boxing was tight in the UFC contender. So he's I think on the precipice of doing some great things, and I'm happy for him.
His phone will be ringing constantly.
Really
from this
like him.
Point forward. Here's one from my good friend RS, who's a Cleveland Brown fan, very disgruntled. Mario, how does it feel to have a quarterback, talking about Baker Mayfield, that can throw 20 yards downfield and doesn't throw 3 or 4 passes over his receiver's head? I'll hang up and listen. Mario, I'm a Baker Mayfield fan, kind of, but I've come to the realization for a number 1 pick, he's not that good. In fact, if you look at that 2018 draft, I don't think there's any doubt you'd take Lamar Jackson over him and Josh Allen and even Sam Darnold if he was on the Browns. I think the Browns would be better. I don't know if you sign him to that second big, long extension. Because when you look at a Herbert, even though he struggled last couple games, Herbert, you're saying for the next 10 to 15 years,
that's your guy.
That's a franchise quarterback.
Yeah, the Steelers beat him this week, right?
Yes, they scored 10 points. And
Wow.
that's the problem with the Browns. If they don't run the ball well with
Right.
Nick Chubb, that offense just grinds down. Going on to final flurry.
You know, that year, real quick, before they could have had Saquon Barkley and
Yes.
make Baker Mayfield.
Yes, they could have. That's interesting.
Isn't that weird? They would have got him.
Mario, speaking of football, as we move on to final flurries, what was your experience for the Chargers game? You went there yesterday. They lost to the Patriots. What is the SoFi experience?
Well, aside from winning the whole game, and then they blew it right at the end with one bad turnover, which is a little frustrating and disappointing because they could play much better than that. And again, that like a close loss, but they were winning the whole time. Aside from that, and I think they'll be fine in the long run. SoFi's awesome, man. There's a reason it's the most
is the
expensive
food
stadium.
good or bad? I hear different
Bro,
things.
there's constant food. Well, it depends where you're at and where you're sitting.
Okay. Budget matters.
Yeah,
Budget
but
matters.
options. Let me tell you though, it is okay. This was the biggest thing, dude. I almost didn't get in. So when you go to Dodger Stadium and you get, because nobody does paper tickets anymore, it's all digital tickets. You got to make sure your phone is charged, right? You can do a screenshot of your ticket and it'll work at Dodger Stadium, right? We've done that. When you go to LAX, you can do a screenshot and it'll work. So I had my assistant send me screenshots of the tickets. It didn't work. So you had to get them downloaded for the bar.
Now,
What
wait a
do you
minute.
mean?
Time
I
out.
said, so I can fly across country and I can go to the Dodger, but it doesn't. So, and then I said, okay, I'm just going to get online. Couldn't get Wi-Fi.
Time out. You didn't just point to your face.
No.
and say,
They
this
didn't
is
say-
my
no.
ticket.
They're like, no. They go, Mario. I go with the cameras. We just can't.
You couldn't
No,
call Spanos. Hey, yo,
hold on a second.
Spanos.
Hold on. I'm gonna borrow. Hold on a second.
Lopez.
Hold on a second.
Get me in here.
So the Wi-Fi didn't work. I was like, oh my god. Fortunately, this one lady who is friends with the Spanos family knew the supervisor. Got the supervisor. They had extra tickets in the suite. Got me in. I was like, but it was a whole thing. I couldn't believe it, dude. And there's like 5 tiers. That's security. No one's sneaking in there. That security's next level. So aside from now, I know if you're ever gonna go to SoFi, you better download that. Don't snap it like you do at Dodger games, because I made that safe assumption, right? You better download it, get the app, and then you'll be in there. With all that said, once we got in there, stadium's amazing, bro.
Yeah.
It is gorgeous. There's not a bad seat in the house. Tons of places to eat. Great places to drink. All kinds of fun bars.
How's
so
the
I was
traffic in and out? Decent?
No, traffic's mean. It's nasty.
Okay.
Give yourself a couple hours to get in there. Once you're in there, it's awesome though. So I was fortunate enough to go to sit with the Spanos in the suite, right in the owner suite right there. You know, who I sat next to, aside from my son, a couple of my buddies. On the other side of me was Norv Turner, former coordinator. So he was such a nice guy. So I was picking his brain the whole time and just asked, because he was a good offensive coordinator.
Yes.
You know, I know he struggled as a head coach, but and he's been in the game for
Troy
for
Aikman
decades.
said he saved his career.
Yeah.
Jimmy Johnson in 1991 said, I have Troy Aikman. I don't like Shula's son. Called Norv, and Troy Aikman basically said, if Jimmy never makes that change, I don't know how my career goes.
Yeah, dude, Norv was dude. He was firing on all cylinders when we were in San Diego too, and with the Chargers were there. But he was a really, really nice guy.
Yeah, and that was the problem with him as a head coach.
Yeah,
he was a really, really nice
really,
guy.
really nice guy. And so, and then I was just asking him. I said, because of the physicality, I should say lack thereof, would have to change. And he was explaining to me how he changed it around. It was really neat. It was like I was getting lessons, and he was taking the time to explain everything. But the stadium itself is just incredible. The Super Bowl's there, of course, this year. The Olympics are going to be there in a couple of years. It was a great experience.
By the way, Bill Belichick and the Patriots.
I would have took you if you were a Chargers fan.
Okay, thanks for the non-invite. By the way,
I only roll with fans.
Yeah, last 6 minutes, how the Patriots were coached not to run out of bounds. Again, Bill Belichick teaches situational football better than anyone I've ever seen. Mario,
I do like the Chargers coach, though.
Real quickly, UFC review and preview. I got to be honest, that Canelo undercard is bad. My undercard is UFC this week and college football. By the way, have the tortas ordered, ready to go.
Bro, this last week, though, just to backtrack a little bit, hell of a card.
Petrayan. I like him.
Dude, but Chimaev, my guy, 6'1", 6'2", whatever he is, fighting at 170, he's only gotten hit one time in the last 4 fights. Dropped homeboy with a solid right the fight prior. He's so strong, he shot in. He's a wrestler. Shot in, carried his opponent over to Dana White. And said, I smashed all your guys. Dropped. I was so humiliated. Had a rear naked choke. Switched it from the other arm. That guy's unbelievable. Kamaru Usman was probably tapping out just watching that fight right there. And then Peter Yan is just a fighting machine.
What a
with him and
machine he
Sandhagen.
is.
Unbelievable.
That was a good fight, though. That was a good fight.
Great fight. He
gave
did
it
great.
his best.
Sandhagen, no, and he can box too. But shout out to Glover Teixeira, 42 years old, beat Jan Blachowicz, 20 years in the sport. Finally a champion. Talk about never give up. It was awesome. So just an awesome card.
Now, how good is the card this week?
It's going to be great.
It's our undercard, by the way.
Oh, man. It's going to be great. I don't know, man. Kamaru Usman and Colby Covington was like the fight of the year when that happened. That is going to be a great fight. And then we got Michael Chandler and Justin Gaethje. That is going to be a great fight. So Canelo, they better hurry up with that, or because I'm telling you what, I'm gonna be switching back and forth. This is gonna be a hell of a night. We're gonna be watching. You're gonna come over, right?
Absolutely. And by the way, Mario, I want to talk about this one book here, $30 and a Cut Eye from Russell Peltz. Short, quick stories. I think it's an excellent book, one of the best I've ever read.
Oh, it's a series of stories.
Yeah, it's about the guy who's been in the boxing for 50 years. I want to share one story. It talks a lot about doing the right thing. Russell Peltz was a young promoter, and he had promised George Benton before he was a trainer. And he promised his manager, Pete Granby, or Mr. Granby, you're going to be on the next card. Problem was, it was going to lose money. And so Benton wasn't showing up to the gym. So Peltz is like, oh, my God, I'm off the hook. I don't have to put Benton on. 10 days before the fight, Benton walks into the gym, and Peltz goes, oh, my God. And he goes, what are you doing, George? He goes, I got to fight. You promised me a couple months ago I'd be on this card. And he goes, well, here's the thing. He goes, we didn't have a contract. So Benton puts a quarter into the thing. He goes, calls his manager. And he goes, hey, Russell. He wants to talk to you. So Mr. Granby goes, what's going on here, Russell? George says we're having an issue because you promised us. He goes, well, Mr. Granby, we didn't have a contract. Mr. Granby just says, so your word's no good, huh?
What an answer.
Russell Peltz said, I felt 2 inches small, and I just said, you're on the card. I promised you. Fast forward 9 years later, that Mr. Granby makes a deal on a Sunday morning at a delicatessen for Randall Tex Cobb for like $25,000 for his local cable show that Dan Duva had. So they shook on it. 3 hours later, Russell Peltz gets a phone call, and he said, I had this bad feeling. It was a bad phone call. It was Granby. And Granby says, Russell, I just want you to know that Don King calling about Randall Tex Cobb. And Russell Peltz actually wrote, at that point, I was in a fetal position having a seizure. And he goes, and Mr. Granby tells Peltz, Russell, I just want you to know that Don King offered me $500,000 to fight Larry Holmes. And he said he almost fainted. He goes, but we made a deal. I'm going to keep my word just like you kept yours. Don't worry about it.
Look at that.
We're good. And so Russell goes,
dude, I love this Granby.
And he goes, what did Don King say? Granby goes, you don't want to hear Don's reaction. But I just want you to know, no matter what you hear, we are showing up for that money. We made a deal.
What a man of character.
And by the way, Randall Cobb ended up getting that $500,000 with Larry Holmes a year or two later.
Look at that.
And so with that and I think so highly of this book, I bought some to give out as gifts to people, and this is yours.
Oh, thank you. That was a hell of a build-up for this.
Right, and they're quick stories.
Oh, I love that there are a bunch of stories.
And there's
like,
quick. He's the guy.
Great.
He's the guy that had Marvin Hagler 3 times at the Spectrum.
Yeah.
And he didn't sign him.
Oh,
One of his great.
Hey, Kim, that was the best build-up for a gift.
That's what I do.
I've ever heard.
Call me Amazon, brother.
You know what? You're allowed at my house on Saturday.
Yeah, and by the way, I don't know about you.
Extra tortas for you.
Thank you, Mario. I don't know about you. When I'm on a plane, I still like to read books.
I do like to read. I still like to read too.
And
yes.
the way you travel, you'll enjoy these
Yes,
stories. He kept every financial record
I love
from his
it.
shows.
Hey, you know what? Thank you very much. I really do
Right.
appreciate
So
that.
Russell Peltz,
Thank you,
great
man.
book. I absolutely enjoyed. All right. On behalf of Mario Lopez, Justin Buffalo,
Halloween
Knuckles,
ended and you're in the Christmas spirit already. I love it.
and Kwanzaa. That's your Kwanzaa gift. Red Ryder BB gun. Tim Frazier and Tino. This is the 3 Knockdown rule on Triller. Goodbye, everybody.